Lieutenant Tai Kong stood in the grand hall of the Volanthi Palace and tried not to feel small. It was hard. Everything here was built for giants. The Volanthi were tall, very tall. The smallest of them stood at least 9 feet high. They had beautiful scales that changed color in the light, sometimes blue, sometimes purple, sometimes silver. They had 4 arms and eyes that glowed like pale moons. They moved with slow grace, like they had all the time in the universe, and they looked at humans the way humans might look at ants. Taeho was a soldier. He had fought in 3 wars. He had medals and scars and memories that kept him awake at night. But here in this palace made of crystal and light, he was nothing. Just a small, soft creature from a small, young planet. The Volanthi Empire ruled 17 star systems. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. They had technology that seemed like magic, and they had invited humanity to join the galactic community with the same. Enthusiasm, one might invite a stray dog into a palace, but humanity needed allies. Earth needed friends among the stars. So the military had sent diplomats and liaisons to every alien civilization that would accept them. Taeho was one of these liaisons. He had expected to spend his time attending boring meetings and writing reports. He had not expected this. "You will serve as bodyguard to Princess Yura," the court official told him. The official was a Volanthi named Advisor Borum. He had 3 of his 4 arms folded behind his back, and his tone made it clear what he thought of this assignment. "This is your duty until further notice." Taeho kept his face calm. "May I ask why a human has been given this honor?" Advisor Borum's scales flickered with what might have been amusement. "Honor, Lieutenant. This is not an honor. This is a punishment. A punishment. For me? For the princess." Taeho said nothing. He understood now. In the Volanthi court, being assigned a human bodyguard was an insult. It was like saying the princess was not worth protecting properly. It was a way to shame her in front of everyone. He wondered what she had done to deserve this. He found out an hour later, when he met Princess Yura for the first time. She was young for a Volanthi, only about 200 years old, which was barely an adult by their standards. She was smaller than most of her kind, only 8 feet tall, and her scales were a soft pink color that reminded Taeho of cherry blossoms back on Earth. Her eyes, though, her eyes were the color of storm clouds, and they were full of anger. "So," she said, looking down at him, "you are my punishment. I am your bodyguard, Your Highness." "You are a message," she said. "My mother wants everyone to know that I have fallen from favor. What better way than to give me a human to follow me around?" Taeho felt a flash of anger, but he pushed it down. He was a professional. "I may be small, Your Highness, but I am good at my job. Your job." Princess Yura laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "Your job is to stand there and remind everyone that I spoke against the Queen, that I questioned her war, that I dared to suggest that maybe, just maybe, we should not destroy the Korvathi because they looked at us wrong." So that was what she had done. She had spoken out for peace. And in the Volanthi court, where strength was everything, that was seen as weakness. Taeho found himself respecting her, just a little. "I will protect you, Your Highness," he said. "Whatever the reason for my assignment?" Princess Yura looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her gray eyes. Not warmth, exactly, but maybe a little less coldness. "You are strange, human," she said. "You know you are being used as an insult, yet you do not seem angry." "I have been insulted before, Your Highness. It did not kill me. And I have found that the best response to an insult is to prove the insulter wrong." For a moment, just a moment, something like a smile crossed her face. Then it was gone. "It's very well, Lieutenant Taeho Kong. Let us see how long you last." The days that followed were difficult. Princess Yura ignored him most of the time. When she did speak to him, it was usually to point out how strange humans were. Why did they only have 2 arms? Why were their skins so soft? Why did they need to sleep so much? Taeho answered her questions patiently. He told her about Earth, about its oceans and mountains and cities. He told her about human history, about their wars and their art and their dreams. He did not try to make humans sound better than they were. He simply told the truth, and slowly, very slowly, he noticed that she was listening. The palace was beautiful, but cold. The other Volanthi treated Taiho like he was invisible, or worse, like he was a pet. They would speak about him in front of him, laughing about the little human who thought he could protect a princess. Taiho ignored them. He had a job to do. He studied the palace. He learned its hallways and its hidden passages. He watched the guards and learned their routines. He identified the weak points in the security, the places where an enemy might slip through. The Volanthi guards noticed him watching and laughed. What could a human see that they could not? Taiho did not argue with them. He just kept watching. The harvest festival came 30 days after his assignment began. It was the biggest celebration of the Volanthi year, a time when the entire palace filled with nobles and merchants and visitors from across the 17 systems. It was also, Taiho realized, the perfect time for an attack. He tried to warn the head of the royal guard, a massive Volanthi named Commander Seojin. The commander listened to him with obvious boredom. "Human commander," Seojin said, "we have protected this palace for 10,000 years. We do not need advice from a species that has barely learned to leave its own planet." "There are too many strangers in the palace," Taiho insisted. "The crowds are too thick. Your guards cannot watch everyone. Our guards are the finest in the empire. I'm not saying they are not good. I am saying there are too many variables. The risk is enough." Commander Seojin waved one of his hands. "Go back to following the princess, little human. Leave the real work to us." Taiho left, but he did not go back to the princess. Instead, he went to the armory and took a small knife, the kind used for cutting food at formal dinners. He hid it in his sleeve, then he returned to Princess Yura's side and waited. The attack came 3 hours later. It happened fast. One moment, the grand hall was full of music and laughter. The next, figures in black were dropping from the ceiling, weapons in their hands. The Corvathi. They were smaller than the Volanthi, with dark blue skin and eyes like black glass. They moved fast, faster than anyone Taiho had ever seen. The Volanthi guards reached for their weapons, but they were slow. They were used to fighting enemies who followed rules. The Corvathi did not follow rules. Taiho grabbed Princess Yura and pulled her down behind a pillar. She gasped in shock. No one had ever touched her like that, not without permission. "Stay down," he said. "What are you? Stay down." 3 Corvathi assassins saw them. They smiled, showing teeth that were sharp like needles. They thought this would be easy. A princess and a human. No threat at all. They were wrong. Taiho moved. Later, people would watch the recordings and try to count the seconds. Some said it was 8 seconds. Some said it was 10. But everyone agreed on what they saw. They saw the small human with the dinner knife move like water. They saw him cut and strike and kill. They saw 3 Corvathi assassins fall, one after another, before any of them could even scream. And they saw Princess Yura, daughter of the great Queen Dosum, pressing herself behind the human's back. Using him as a shield, when the last assassin fell, Taiho turned to look at her. His face was calm. His hands were steady. Only his eyes showed anything at all, a fierce light that the Volanthi had never seen in a human before. "Are you hurt, Your Highness?" he asked. Princess Yura could not speak. She could only shake her head. Around them, the grand hall had gone silent. Everyone was staring. The guards, the nobles, the servants. They were all looking at the small human who stood over 3 dead assassins. His borrowed knife dripping onto the crystal floor, Commander Seojin pushed through the crowd. His scales were pale with shock. "How?" he began. Taiho looked at him calmly. "Too many variables," he said. "I warned you." Then he turned back to the princess and offered her his hand. And for the first time since they had met, Princess Yura took it. The palace would talk about this night for years. The night a human became something more than a joke. The night everything changed, but Taiho was not thinking about history. He was thinking about the look in the assassin's eyes. They had known where to find the princess. They had known exactly where she would be standing. Someone in the palace had told them. And Taiho was going to find out who. The alien queen's daughter, cowered behind me. The palace couldn't believe it. The recording spread across the empire in hours. Every news channel, every communication network, every corner of the 17 star system saw it. The small human, the falling assassins, the princess pressing herself against his back, trusting him to keep her safe. It should have been embarrassing for the Volanthi. A member of their royal family, hiding behind a creature they considered barely more than an animal. But something strange happened. Instead of shame, people felt something else. They felt wonder. "Play it again," said Volanthi across the empire. "Play the part where he moves," because no one had ever seen anything move like that. The Volanthi were strong. The Korvathi were fast. But the human was something different. He did not fight with strength or speed alone. He fought with something the aliens could not name. Later, human diplomats would try to explain it. They would use words like instinct and adaptability and survival drive. But none of those words really captured what Lieutenant Taiho Kong had shown the galaxy that night. Back in the palace, things were changing. Princess Yura sat in her private chambers. Watching the recording for the 20th time, she watched herself grab onto the human's uniform. She watched herself cower behind him like a child hiding from a storm. She should have felt ashamed. Her mother had raised her to be strong, to never show fear, to never depend on anyone. And yet when she watched the recording, she did not feel shame. She felt grateful. There was a knock at her door. "Enter," she said. Taiho stepped inside and bowed. His uniform was clean now, no trace of the blood from the night before. His face was calm, as always. Only his eyes gave anything away, and even then, only if you knew how to look. "You wanted to see me, Your Highness?" "Yes." Princess Yura stood and walked toward him. She stopped a few feet away and looked down at him. "I wanted to thank you, properly." "There is no need for thanks, Your Highness. I was doing my job, your job." Yura shook her head slowly. "The guards were doing their jobs too. They failed." "You did not." Taiho was quiet for a moment. "The guards are trained for traditional combat. The Korvathi did not fight traditionally. And you were trained for this kind of fighting?" "I was trained for many kinds of fighting, Your Highness. Humans have been at war with each other for most of our history. We have learned to expect the unexpected." Yura considered this. The Volanthi had known peace for thousands of years. Their wars were formal, organized, almost ceremonial. The idea of constant, chaotic conflict was strange to her. "Tell me about your wars," she said, so Taiho did. He told her about the First World War and the Second. He told her about the conflicts that came after, the small wars and the large ones, the cold wars and the hot ones. He told her about humanity's first contact with aliens, and the terrible war that followed when a different species had tried to conquer Earth. "We almost lost," Taiho said. "They had better technology, better weapons, but we would not stop fighting. Even when our cities were burning, even when it looked like we would be destroyed, we kept fighting." "Why?" Yura asked. "Why not surrender?" Taiho looked at her with those strange human eyes. Because surrender meant death, and humans would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Yura felt a chill run through her scales. She'd been taught that humans were weak, soft, primitive, but now she was beginning to wonder if her teachers had been wrong. "Your sister?" she said quietly. "You mentioned her once, in passing." Taiho's face did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. "Yonji, she was younger than me. She wanted to be a painter. What happened to her?" "The First Contact War. She was in Seoul when the bombs fell." Taiho's voice was steady, but Yura could hear the pain beneath the words. "I was stationed on the moon. I could not reach her. I could not protect her. I am sorry. That was 15 years ago. I have made peace with it." Taiho met her eyes, but I made a promise to myself that day. I would never fail to protect someone again. Never. Yura understood then. She understood why he had moved so fast, why he had killed without hesitation, why he had put his own body between her and death. It was not just duty. It was something deeper. Something humans carried in their hearts like a fire that never went out. "You are strange creatures," she said. "You burn so bright and so brief, but you never stop burning." "Perhaps that is our gift," Taiho said. "We know our time is short, so we make every moment count." The door opened again, and Princess Nari entered. She was Yor's older sister, taller and more formal. Her scales were deep blue, and her eyes were sharp like needles.
"Sister Nari said,
"Mother wants to see the human." Taiho bowed. "I will go at once, Taiho." Yura spoke his name before she could stop herself. He paused at the door. "Be careful. My mother is not cruel, but she is not kind either. She will test you, I understand, Your Highness." After he left, Nari turned to her sister with a strange expression. "You called him by his name, not his rank, not human. His name, he saved my life. He is still a human." Yura looked at the door where Taiho had stood. "Yes, he is. And I am beginning to think that means more than we ever knew." The throne room of the Velanthi Palace was the largest space Taiho had ever seen. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed inside it. The floor was made of crystal that showed images of the Empire's history. The throne itself was made of living metal that shifted and changed like water, and on the throne sat Queen Dasam. She was old, even by Velanthi standards. Over 2,000 years old. Her scales had faded to a pale silver, but her eyes were still sharp and bright. 4 arms rested on the arms of her throne, each one covered with rings and bracelets that represented her power. Taiho walked the long path to the throne and knelt. "Lieutenant Taiho Kung," the queen said. Her voice filled the room without effort. "You have caused quite a commotion in my palace. I apologize for any trouble, Your Majesty." "Trouble?" The queen's lips curved in what might have been a smile. 3 assassins lie dead. My daughter lives. You call this trouble? I meant the attention, Your Majesty. I know that my actions have drawn unwanted focus to stand up." Taiho stood. Queen Dasam leaned forward on her throne. All 4 of her hands gripped the armrests. Her silver eyes studied him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "You are either very brave or very stupid," she said. "Which is it?" Taiho met her gaze. He knew he should look away. In Velanthi culture, meeting the queen's eyes was considered a challenge. But something told him that looking away would be worse. "With respect, Your Majesty," he said, "I do not see the difference. When someone's life is on the line, thinking too much can get them killed. So I did not think. I acted," the court gasped. Advisor Borum stepped forward, his scales flushing with anger. "How dare you speak to the queen in such a quiet—" The queen raised one hand, and Advisor Borum fell silent. She continued to study Taiho with those ancient eyes. "You are not afraid of me. I have seen death, Your Majesty. Many times. You are powerful and wise, but you are not death. And if I decided to have you executed for your insolence, then I would die knowing I spoke the truth. There are worse ways to go." For a long moment, the throne room was silent. Everyone waited for the queen's anger. They waited for her to order the guards to take the human away. But instead, Queen Dasam began to laugh. It was a deep, rumbling sound that echoed off the crystal walls. The court stared in shock. No one had heard the queen laugh in years. "You're interesting, Lieutenant Taiho Kung," the queen said. "Very interesting. I assigned you to my daughter as a punishment, a way to shame her for speaking against me. But now I am wondering if I made a mistake, Your Majesty. A punishment should bring shame. Instead, you have brought her glory. The recordings show my daughter being protected by someone willing to die for her. The Empire does not see shame. They see loyalty. They see courage." The queen shook her head slowly. "You have turned my punishment into a gift." So he said nothing. "Go back to my daughter," Queen Dasam said. "Continue to protect her. And Lieutenant?" "Yes, Your Majesty. Do not make me regret letting you live." Taiho bowed. "I will do my best, Your Majesty." As he walked back down the long crystal path, he felt the eyes of the entire court on his back. Some were curious. Some were angry. Some were afraid, but one pair of eyes, hidden in the shadows of a side chamber, watched him with pure hatred. Lord Jinho had plans for this empire. Plans that did not include humans. Plans that required Princess Yura dead. The human had ruined everything once. Lord Jinho would make sure it did not happen again. Back in Princess Yura's chambers, Taiho found her waiting for him.
Oh.
You survived, she said. I was not sure you would. Your mother is impressive. That is one word for her. Yura moved closer to him. What did she say? She told me to keep protecting you, and to not make her regret letting me live. That is almost friendly coming from her.
Ow, Yura paused.
Taiho, I need to ask you something. Anything, Your Highness. The assassins. They knew where I would be standing. They came straight for me, through all those guards, all those nobles. How did they know? Taiho had been thinking about the same thing. Someone told them. Someone in the palace. A traitor. Yes. Yuru's gray eyes darkened. Will you help me find them? Taiho looked at the princess. She was not asking him as a servant. She was asking him as a partner. As an equal? Yes, he said. I will. And somewhere in the palace, hidden in shadows, Lord Jinho began to make new plans. The hunt was about to begin. The alien queen's daughter. Cowered behind me at the palace, couldn't believe it. The days after the assassination attempt were strange for Princess Yura. For the first time in her life, she found herself looking forward to spending time with someone. That someone was a human, Taiho, had a way of seeing things that she did not. He noticed details that she missed. He asked questions that she had never thought to ask. And when they talked, he treated her not like a princess, but like a person. We need to start from the beginning, Taiho said one morning. They were sitting in Yura's private garden, surrounded by flowers from 17 different worlds. Who knew where you would be standing during the festival? Everyone, Yura said. The royal family always stands in the same place during the harvest festival. It has been tradition for thousands of years. Then we need to think about it differently. Who wanted you dead? This was a harder question. Yura thought about her life in the palace. She thought about the enemy she had made when she spoke against the war. Lord Jinho, she said finally. He has always hated me. He believes I am weak because I spoke for peace. Taiho nodded. He had noticed Lord Jinho watching them in the halls. The tall Velanthi noble had scales as dark as midnight and eyes that held no warmth. He was one of the richest people in the empire and one of the most powerful. What do you know about him? Taiho asked. He has been a noble for over 1,000 years. He fought in the last great war centuries ago. He believes the Velanthi should rule the galaxy, not share it with other species, including humans, especially humans. Yura looked at Taiho with worried eyes. He has said publicly that humans are dangerous, that we should never have let your kind into our space. When he heard that you had saved my life, he was not happy. Taiho filed this information away. Then we start with Lord Jinho. How? He is powerful. He has spies everywhere. If we try to investigate him openly, he will know. Then we do not investigate openly.
Taiho smiled.
It was a small smile, but there was something dangerous in it. Humans have been fighting against powerful enemies for a long time, Your Highness. We have learned a few tricks. Over the next few weeks, Taiho taught Yura things she had never learned in her palace education. He taught her how to move quietly. The Velanthi were naturally graceful, but they were not used to hiding. They walked proudly, with their heads high. Taiho showed her how to make herself small, how to step softly, how to disappear into shadows. This is ridiculous, Yura said one night, as they practiced in the dark hallways of the palace. I am a princess. I should not be sneaking around like a thief. You are a princess someone wants dead, Taiho reminded her. Would you rather be a dead princess who followed all the rules, or a living one who broke a few? Yura could not argue with that. He taught her how to listen, not just to words, but to the things behind words. The pauses, the changes in tone, the things people said without saying them. Everyone in this palace has secrets, Taiho explained. Watch how they react when certain topics come up. Watch their eyes. Watch their hands. The truth is always there if you know how to look for it. Uda found herself watching the nobles differently now. She noticed how they would whisper when Lord Ginho entered a room. She noticed how some of them would look at her with fear instead of contempt. Something was happening in the palace, something bigger than a simple assassination attempt. She also found herself watching Teho. He was so different from the Volanthi. He was small and soft and strange. He slept for 8 hours every night, which seemed like such a waste of time. He needed to eat 3 times a day. He could not regulate his body temperature properly, and yet there was something about him that she could not look away from. When he talked about Earth, his eyes would light up with love and sadness. When he talked about his sister, his voice would become soft and gentle. When he talked about protecting people, he became like fire, burning with purpose. Why do you care so much? She asked him one evening. About protecting others? About doing what is right? Taiho thought about the question for a long moment. Because someone has to. And if not me, then who? That is a very human answer. Perhaps. But is it wrong? Yura did not have a response to that. Admiral Hinsek was Queen Dassam's most trusted military commander. He was old and wise, with scales that had faded to a dignified gray. Unlike many nobles, he did not look down on humans. He had fought alongside them during a border dispute years ago, and he had been impressed by their courage. When Taiho requested a private meeting, the admiral agreed. You believe Lord Genho was behind the assassination attempt? Admiral Hunsik said. They were in his private office, surrounded by maps and battle plans. I have no proof yet, Taiho admitted, but everything points to him. He has the motive. He has the resources, and he has connections to the Korvathi syndicate. The admiral's eyes narrowed. That is a serious accusation. I know. That is why I am here. I need access to communication records, military intelligence, things a human liaison would not normally see. You are asking me to trust you. I am asking you to help me protect the princess. Admiral Hunsik was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his desk and pulled out a small crystal. This will give you access to classified communication logs. Use it carefully. If Lord Ginho finds out you have it, he will destroy you. Taiho took the crystal. Thank you, Admiral. Do not thank me yet, Lieutenant. You are walking into a nest of snakes, and snakes do not take kindly to humans stepping on their tails. The communication logs revealed more than Taiho had expected. Lord Jinho had not just been talking to the Korvathi. He had been planning with them for months. But the assassination of Princess Yura was only a small part of a much larger plan. Once the throne, Taiho told Yura late one night, he has been building alliances with other noble houses. He has been bribing military commanders. He has been preparing for a coup. Yura's face went pale. A coup? Against my mother? He plans to kill the queen and blame it on humans. He will use that as an excuse to start a war with Earth. And in the chaos, he will seize power. How do you know this? Taiho showed her the communications. Yura read them with growing horror. Lord Jinho's words were cold and calculating. He talked about killing her mother like it was a business transaction. We have to warn her, Yura said. We have to show her this. We will. But we need to be careful. If we move too fast, Ginho will know. He has spies everywhere. We need to gather more evidence first. Yura grabbed his arm. Her grip was strong, stronger than he expected. Taiho, this is my mother we are talking about. I know she and I do not agree on everything. I know she punished me. But she is still my mother. Understand. But if we go to her now, with only this, Ginho can deny everything. He will say, we forged the communications. He will say, we are trying to frame him. And then he will know we are onto him. He will move up his timeline. Yuta took a deep breath. How long do we have? Based on these messages, he is planning to move during the Night of Stars. It is the one night of the year when the entire royal family appears together in public, and that is in 10 days. Yes, we have 10 days to find enough evidence to convince your mother, and to stop Jinho before he can act. Yura looked at Taiho with something like fear in her eyes. Can we do it? Taiho met her gaze. He did not look away. He did not show doubt. He said. So we will. Over the next few days, Taiho and Yura worked harder than they had ever worked before. They slipped into places they were not supposed to go. They listened at doors. They read private messages. They talked to servants who were loyal to the princess, gathering whispers and rumors, and they were not alone. Sergeant Murray Park was the only other human in the palace. She worked in the communication center, a small, quiet woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind. When Taiho approached her for help, she did not hesitate. I've been watching Lord Ginho for months, Murray admitted. I knew something was wrong. I just could not prove it, You can, Taiho said. I need you to monitor his communications. Everything that goes in and out of his chambers, that is illegal. So is planning to kill the queen. Murray smiled grimly. Fair point. With Murray's help, they gathered more evidence. They found messages between Ginho and noble houses that had agreed to support his coup. They found records of payments to Corvathi assassins. They found a detailed plan for how the Night of Stars would unfold. But on the 8th day, everything went wrong. Taiho was sneaking through the lower levels of the palace when he turned a corner and found Commander Siajin waiting for him. Lieutenant Kong, the commander said, you are far from your post. Taiho's heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. I was investigating a possible security threat. Were you? Commander Siajin moved closer. Or were you spying on your betters? Taiho realized the truth a moment too late. Commander Siajin was one of Jinho's people. Lord Jinho knows what you have been doing, the commander said. He knows about your investigation. He knows about the crystal the Admiral gave you. And he knows that you need to be stopped. Taiho moved, but he was not fast enough. Commander Siajin was Valanthi with 4 arms and centuries of training. He grabbed Taiho and slammed him against the wall. You should have stayed in your place, human, Commander. Siajin hissed. Now you will die, and so will your precious princess. Taiho had one advantage, that commander. Siajin had forgotten. Humans did not fight fair. He had a small knife hidden in his boot. A knife no one had thought to take from him because no one took humans seriously. He used it now, Commander. Siajin screamed and fell back, one of his hands clutching his bleeding arm. Taiho ran. He had to warn Yura. He had to warn the Admiral. The coup had started early, and the Night of Stars was about to become a night of blood, the alien queens. Daughter cowered behind Meath. The palace couldn't believe it, the palace. Alarms screamed into the night. Taiho ran through corridors that were already filling with smoke and screams. Lord Ginho had moved faster than anyone expected. His soldiers were everywhere, their dark armor marking them as traitors. He had to reach Yura. The princess's chambers were on the upper levels, but the main stairs were already blocked by fighting. Taiho ducked into a maintenance tunnel that the Valanthi considered too small and dirty for their use. He crawled through the darkness, his heart pounding. When he came out the other side, found Yura waiting for him with a weapon in her hands. I heard the alarms, she said. What is happening? Ginho has started his coup. We need to move, my mother. We cannot help her if we are dead. Come with me now. For a moment, Yura hesitated. Every part of her wanted to run to the throne room, to fight by her mother's side. But she looked at Taiho's face and saw the truth there. If she ran into that fight, she would die. Where do we go? She asked. Down to the maintenance levels. We gather allies, and we fight back.
Owie.
They moved through the palace like ghosts. Taiho had spent weeks learning every secret path, every hidden door. Now that knowledge saved their lives. Along the way, they found others. Servants who loved the princess for her kindness, young guards who refused to follow traitor commanders, a cook named Bora who had once been a soldier, an old gardener named Wanjin who knew the palace better than anyone alive, and Sergeant Murray Park, who met them in the communication center with a grim expression. I managed to send a message to the outer systems before Jinho's people cut the lines, Murray reported. Help is coming, but it will take hours to arrive. Then we hold until it gets here, Taiho said. He looked at the small group gathered around him. 15 people, maybe 16. Half of them were servants who had never held a weapon. They were going up against hundreds of trained soldiers. "This is impossible," whispered one of the young guards.
No, Taiho said.
Impossible is what the Volanthi said when humans first reached the stars. Impossible is what the Korvathi said when Earth refused to surrender. Impossible is just a word people use when they are afraid to try. He pulled out a map of the palace and spread it on the floor. Ginho's forces are strong, but they are not unbeatable. They expect to fight like Volanthi in straight lines with honor. We are not going to fight like Volanthi. Princess Yura looked at him. How are we going to fight? Taiho smiled that dangerous smile again. Like humans. They fought dirty. They set fires in empty wings of the palace, drawing guards away from their positions. They blocked corridors with furniture and debris. They used the maintenance tunnels to appear behind enemy lines.
Strike.
And vanish before anyone could respond. Murray hacked into the palace communication system and broadcast Lord Jinho's private messages. The ones where he called his own soldiers fools and tools. The ones where he laughed about how easy they were to manipulate. "You are serving a man who thinks you are nothing," Moray's voice echoed through every speaker in the palace. "He will throw away your lives and feel nothing. Is that the Lord you want to die for?" Some soldiers hesitated. Some put down their weapons. Every defection was a small victory, but it was not enough. Lord Jinho was too powerful. He had too many soldiers. And he was getting closer to the throne room, where Queen Dasam and Princess Nari were trapped. "We need to draw him away," Taiho said. "Give the Queen's loyal guards time to regroup." "How?" Yura asked. "He wants you dead. You are the symbol of everything he hates. If he sees you, he will come for you himself." Yura understood. "You want to use me as bait? I want to give you the chance to face the man who tried to kill you. But only if you are willing." Yura thought about her mother, trapped in the throne room. She thought about her sister. She thought about the palace that had been her home for 200 years. "I am willing," she said. They found Lord Jinho in the Grand Hall, the same place where the Harvest Festival had been held. Where Taiho had first saved Yura's life, the hall was damaged now, its crystal walls cracked, its beautiful floor stained with blood. Jinho stood in the center, surrounded by his personal guard. He was wearing armor that made him look even larger than usual. In one of his 4 hands, he held a weapon that glowed with deadly energy.
Princess Yura, he said when he saw her.
And her pet human. "I wondered when you would show yourselves." "It is over, Jinho," Yura said. "Help is coming. Your coup has failed, has it?" Jinho laughed. "I still hold the palace. I still have your mother. And soon, I will have you. You will have to go through me first," Taiho said. Stepping in front of Yura, Jinho looked at him with something like amusement. "You, the little human who thinks he is a hero? I watched the recordings of your little fight at the festival. You surprised those Korvathi fools? But you will not surprise me." He raised his weapon. "Kill them both." His guards moved forward. Taiho moved too. What happened next was not a fight. It was a dance of death. Taiho had been practicing his whole life for this moment. Every training session, every battle, every scar had led him here. He moved through Jinho's guards like water through stones. He was smaller than them, weaker, but he was faster. He knew where they were going to strike before they struck. He knew their weaknesses, their blind spots, the gaps in their armor. One by one, they fell. But there were too many. For every guard he dropped, 2 more took their place. His arms grew tired. His movements slowed. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead, blurring his vision, and then he was alone. Facing Lord Jinho himself, Jinho was massive. His armor made him even larger. His forearms gave him advantages that no human could match. "You fought well, human," Jinho admitted. "Better than I expected. But this is where it ends." Swung his weapon, and Taiho barely dodged in time. The blow shattered the floor where he had been standing. Again and again, Jinho attacked. Taiho dodged, ducked, weaved. But he could not get close. Jinho's reach was too long, his defenses too strong. "Das die," Jinho growled. Die like the inferior creature you are. Taiho was breathing hard. His body was screaming with exhaustion. He knew he could not keep this up much longer. And then he saw it. A gap in Jinho's armor. Just below the left shoulder, where the plates did not quite meet. He had one chance. Taiho stopped dodging. He let Jinho's next blow come straight at him, and at the last second, he moved. Not away, toward. He slid under Jinho's arms, his small body fitting into spaces a Volanthe could never reach. His knife found the gap in the armor. Found the flesh beneath, Jinho screamed. The great lord fell to his knees, one hand clutching the wound. His weapon clattered to the ground. His eyes were wide with shock and fury. Impossible, he gasped. You are just a human. Just a human who does not give up, Taiho said. And that is enough. He stood over the fallen lord, breathing hard, covered in blood and sweat. His knife was still in his hand. Behind him, Princess Yura watched with tears in her eyes. They had one, the alien queen's daughter, cowered behind Mitha Palace, couldn't believe it. The sun rose over the Volanthe homeworld, its golden light spilling through the cracked walls of the palace. Lord Jinho was taken away in chains. His allies were arrested one by one. The soldiers who had followed him were given a choice: face justice or return to their duties. Most chose to return. They had been fooled by a powerful man, and they knew it. Queen Dassam walked through the ruined grand hall, her silver scales catching the morning light. Princess Nari walked beside her, quiet and thoughtful, and behind them, surrounded by guards who now looked at him with respect, stood Lieutenant Taiho Kong. He was battered and bruised. His uniform was torn, but he stood straight, his eyes clear. You saved my palace, Queen Dassam said. You saved my daughter. You may have saved my empire. God help your majesty. Many people fought last night. Many people made sacrifices. Yes, but they followed you. The queen turned to face him fully. All four of her arms were still, which was a sign of deep thought among the Volanthe. A human led Volanthe's servants and guards into battle against their own kind. And they followed willingly. Do you understand how remarkable that is? Taiho did not know what to say, so he said nothing. I have lived for over 2,000 years, Queen Dassam continued. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen species come and go, and I have never seen anything quite like you, Lieutenant Taiho Kong. She raised one hand, and a servant stepped forward carrying a small box. Kneel, the queen commanded. Taiho knelt. The queen opened the box. Inside was a badge made of living crystal, the same material as the palace itself. It pulsed with soft light, like a heartbeat. By my authority as Queen of the Valenthia Empire, I hereby grant you the rank of Shield-Bearer of the Royal House. This title has not been given to an outsider in over 1,000 years. It means you speak with my voice. You act with my authority. You are, in all ways that matter, a member of this house. She placed the badge on his chest. Where it touched his uniform, it seemed to melt into the fabric, becoming part of him. Rise, shield-bearer. Taiho rose. The throne room was silent. Every noble, every guard, every servant was watching. Now, the queen said, name your reward. Anything within my power to give, I will give. Taiho thought about what he could ask for. Wealth. A title. Land on one of the 17 worlds. Power beyond anything a human had ever held. I would like to continue my assignment, he said. If the princess will have me, Dawson blinked. Of all the things she had expected him to ask for, this was not one of them. You could have anything, she said. And you asked to remain a bodyguard? With respect, your majesty, I was never just a bodyguard. I am a protector. It is what I am. It is what I choose to be. And there is no one I would rather protect than Princess Yura. He turned to look at the princess, who was standing nearby with tears running down her scaled cheeks. If she will have me, he repeated. Yura stepped forward. She was tall, even for a Volanthe, and she had to look down to meet his eyes. But when she looked at him, she did not see someone small or weak or inferior. she saw someone who had risked everything to keep her safe. Someone who had never given up. Someone who had taught her what courage really meant. "I will have you," she said. "Always." The queen nodded slowly. "Then it is done. Let it be known throughout the 17 systems, shield-bearer Taiho Kong serves the royal house of Velanthi. He is under our protection. He speaks with our voice. Any who harm him answer to me." The nobles bowed. The guard saluted. And somewhere in the crowd, Sergeant Murray Park smiled. In the days that followed, the empire began to heal. The palace was rebuilt, stronger than before. The noble houses that had supported Jinho were punished, their power reduced, their lands divided. New alliances were formed, new treaties signed, and everywhere people talked about the human who had saved the princess. The recordings of the battle spread across the galaxy, just like the recordings of the first assassination attempt. But these were different. These showed a small, soft creature fighting against impossible odds. They showed servants and guards rallying behind him. They showed Lord Jinho, one of the most powerful Volanthi in the Empire, falling to a human with a knife. Other species watched and wondered. If a single human could do this, what could all of humanity do? For the first time, the galaxy began to take humans seriously. Princess Yura and Taiho sat in her private garden, watching the twin suns set. The sky was painted in shades of gold and purple, the same colors as Velanthi scales. "They will write songs about you," Yura said. "Stories, legends. The human who made a princess hide behind him." Taiho smiled. "I did not make you hide. You chose to trust me. There is a difference. Is there?" "Yes. Trust is not weakness. Trust is knowing when to let someone else be strong for you." He looked at her. "You were brave too, you know. You stood up against Jinho. You used yourself as bait. Many people would not have done that. I learned from you." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The suns sank lower. Stars began to appear in the darkening sky. "What happens now?" Yura asked. "Now, we keep going. Your mother will open relations with Earth. Our species will learn from each other. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy will become a little bit better. And us." Taiho looked at her. In the fading light, her scales glowed softly. Her gray eyes were bright with something he had not seen there before. "Hope. Keep going too," he said. "One day at a time. Together." Yura reached out and took his hand. Her grip was warm and strong and sure. "Together," she agreed. Years later, when Princess Yura became Queen Yura, her first act was to sign a treaty of eternal friendship with Earth, human diplomats. Engineers and soldiers became common sights throughout the Empire. The old prejudices did not disappear overnight, but they began to fade, and always at the new queen's side stood shield-bearer Taiho Kong. He was older now, with gray in his hair and new scars on his hands, but his eyes were still sharp. His stance was still ready, and his loyalty was still absolute. They asked him once, a young human reporter who had come to interview him, what his secret was. How had a single human changed the course of galactic history? Taiho thought about the question for a long time. "There is no secret," he finally said. "Humans are not special because we are strong or fast or smart. We are special because we do not give up. When everyone else says something is impossible, we keep trying. When everyone else runs away, we stand our ground. When everyone else gives up hope, we hold on." He looked out the window at the stars, billions of lights burning in the endless dark. "We are small," he said. "We are fragile. We live for barely a century. But in that short time, we burn brighter than stars. We love harder than anything in the universe. And we will fight to protect the people we care about until our very last breath." He smiled, and in that smile was all the stubborn, reckless, beautiful courage of humanity. That is who we are. That is what we do. And that is why, in the end, we always find a way. Outside, the suns rose on a new day, and the empire that had once laughed at humans now stood beside them as friends. It was, Taiho thought, a pretty good ending. But it was also just the beginning.